Tonight we find ourselves on the threshold of a mystery. We approach the heart of the gospel. The Triduum, or whoever your Greek teacher is, commemorates the passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ our Lord. It is a single celebration that lasts 3 days. Tonight, Maundy Thursday, is where we remember the Last Supper. It is also the night that Jesus washed the feet of his disciples and gave us the new commandment to love one another, as we just heard. Tomorrow, Good Friday, we remember the death, the passion and death of Jesus. And finally, on Saturday, we keep the great vigil of Easter, where we celebrate with each other and with Jesus the resurrection. Since Advent, we have journeyed pretty far. There's been a lot of water underneath this bridge here at St. Luke's. I think you know some of that. And now we arrive at the hour. The celebration of this evening is marked by word and sacrament, and it emphasizes the primacy of community, its intimacy, its mutual forgiveness, its absolution, its reconciliation, and peace. Not only that, but service to one another. Indeed, tonight is about a love that overwhelms. It's meant to be felt deeply, very depths of our hearts, with a kind of poignancy, I think, that is supposed to crystallize our intent not only to love one another, but also to love those to whom no love is shown. You know, while death and resurrection find themselves at the heart of this mystery, we must never forget what lies at its threshold: betrayal. Because that happened this night too. And while death and resurrection linked together are themselves the pattern by which this betrayal is absorbed, it is through the pain of the cross that grace ultimately channels redemption. After bread is broken, feet are washed, and our most ardent prayers are uttered, Jesus' fate is sealed with a kiss. Sealed, as it were, in the name of love. And perhaps knowing that makes speaking about grace all the more complicated. Perhaps grace really is the scandal at the root of the vine. It's a seed that flowers out of what we do for one another this evening, taking foot in hand and washing it with our mind fixed on the Christ that's before us. And this kind of love is something of an unknown, because we don't do this for each other very often. It's a kind of love, if you think about it, that makes you blush. It made Peter blush. You remember? You will never wash my feet. I felt like Peter before, repelled and at times embarrassed by love, especially the love that seeks nothing in return. And to that end, I've often wondered what happens this evening, what this act that Jesus does. I've often wondered why we don't consider it a miracle. Because isn't it? Isn't to be fully seen by somebody and then loved anyhow? Isn't that one of the most deepest human offerings one can experience? Isn't such an encounter one that ultimately borders on the miraculous? I think it does, and I think so. And I believe we're called to love like that. Jesus says in doing so, people will know that we are his disciples. But I'm mindful that this call is not just to serve those that we love. For what good is it only to love those who love you? For even sinners do the same. Make no mistake, the love with which we are to love others is galvanized here at supper with our friends. And then we are to take that love out into the world and give it away wherever we find ourselves, to whomever is before us, even to those we are at enmity with, even those we call our enemy. And that's the hardest thing we do as Christians. At times, rendering such love demands that we know that we will encounter the cross. And as the prayer tells us, we are to love anyways. There upon that threshold, I think we will encounter the heart of the gospel. We will encounter and be given the grace we need to in that moment. And we will know in some way the cost of loving like Jesus. For no one really knows the meaning of grace until it is demanded from them. Such a realization in that moment, I hope, will take us back to this evening, to what we do for one another, and allow us to hear the message of this night again. I give you a new commandment, that you are to love one another as I have loved you. And by doing so, all the world will know that you are my disciples. Be not afraid.